Amy, are you enjoying the channel?
Very much so. It's really good to watch different Catholic families in so many different stages and so many different types and ways of being Catholic. It's really just like encompasses that universal Catholicity that it's just really consoling to know that there is no one sort of like right way to raise a Catholic family, that you can be Catholic and do it in your personality style. So I found that great. I also I connected with a friend from uni over it because she commented on one of your posts and then she messaged me and said that's how it was going, but it was through sort of like seeing each other on the posts about your channel. So it's really nice to sort of like have that moment of connection again.
That first date with Matthew would be great. The film camera?
Yeah, where I talked to him about that maybe there would be a film crew coming at some point. Yeah.
To this really sweet guy who's clearly an introvert.
Yeah, now I know him better. I'm like, that was a big yes from him. And put it down, just so she can sweep it up.
Oh, that's so sweet. The lovely things they do.
I know, it's really
just
cute.
clear this bit up, darling.
Just clear it up. Yeah, just move to the mess you made earlier. Like, that would be nice.
Yeah. Oh, the snot and everything.
It's like getting away from the idea that singlehood is just like limbo, because it can feel like that sometimes. But it's actually a really great time just to, I don't know, do all of these things that you can't do when you're married. So I felt like that when I got married. Suddenly there were things I couldn't do. So when I was single, I really got into dancing. So like salsa and bachata and like a couple Brazilian ones. They were all like partnership dancing. So not like scripted dancing. So you would just go on a night out. You would pay like £5 for entry. You might get one glass of wine, but most people just get water at the bar. And then you're just dancing all evening. And then you can come home at 3 in the morning and you've had a great night out with like no alcohol, no anything but sort of like good fun. Sort of like just really, and good exercise as well. I never
So then everyone goes that wants to do that sort of dancing, one sort?
Yeah, but there are classes beforehand so people can learn like mini routines or mini like things to do while you're dancing together and stuff.
So would there be total strangers there that you just go and dance with? Like that?
You get to I got to know quite a few people through it because you would see like the same kind of people at different events coming like every week or something. But I got really into it because it was a really, as a more introverted, it was really a nice way to go and be around a lot of people because there's like no expectation to have like deep conversations. And it was a really fun sort of night out, and I never really liked clubbing. I really didn't like clubbing because clubbing always felt really grimy. I don't know, when I was at uni and stuff, I couldn't afford it. And I just sort of like never really liked the vibe there because it was always, I found clubbing really awkward, but I found sort of like the social dance Latin scene just really kind of vibrant and fun and I guess like communicative between men and women, which I really appreciated. I learned to trust myself more in sort of like being, I guess, sort of like embodied in more because I was more like in tune with my body and stuff. Working, because when you're dancing with someone else, you kind of have to follow them, so you have to obey their cues. It's a really cooperative thing, and it's really fun at the same time. I don't know, Jordan Peterson talks about order and chaos a lot, and I feel like dancing socially is like right on the edge of that, because you have the order of like the moves and the chaos of like, it's a song that you both haven't heard, but you know the main beats and stuff, and you're listening, so you can kind of make things go to it as it goes. And it was just like I found it really satisfying to do. I don't know, it was a very like low pressure situation because when you're at a club there's a very sort of like sexualized feel to everything, and when you're doing other dancing I guess sometimes there can be, but for me there really wasn't. It was mostly just sort of like having fun with friends that I made in the classes. You know, you were all sort of just like, you really enjoyed the music and you enjoyed the dance and you enjoyed executing the dance well. That was sort of like the goal of the night, and I found that really great, really freeing and really sort of like useful in terms of integrating that idea into sort of, I'd done a lot of like, I've been looking at theology of the body a lot around that time. So I found that really interesting and like a lived out way of it in like male and female cooperation, and together that's beautiful.
Is it ours? We're going on. How do you know?
That gorgeous girl that sat next to us is my year 1 girls.
I think that's where the engine is, boys. You think that's where the engine was because it was the loudest bit?
International.
Please, I won't go to that. Why?
So then when you got married,
Yeah.
no more dancing.
Well, I moved, so suddenly I wasn't in central London anymore, so I couldn't like get to dancing. And then I got pregnant with Elizabeth quite quickly, and I felt really sick all the time for like the first 17 weeks. That kind of like ruled out dancing for me there a little bit. And then when you have a newborn, you can't really be away from them if you're breastfeeding for that long. Then I was about to go back to do like a night of salsa in Richmond or something with some of the girls from church, and then the pandemic hit. So I think maybe I'd get back to doing the odd bit here and there, because I really loved it. I'm not really like a gym person. I'm really bad at motivating myself to do something that is painful. So exercise never really hit it for me. But dancing was really good exercise without me realising it. So that was like a great way of tricking myself into being healthy. I don't think I'll ever be able to dance the amount that I danced when I was single. I danced a lot of evenings a week, basically. So it was really great.
So single life, fun.
Loads of fun. And then... and also like you can say yes to things like quickly. So sort of like, I remember I was on the like Youth 2000 leadership team. They wanted to go quite quickly. And just to say yes quickly, I could do that. And to, to like look at my schedule and be like, no, like actually that's fine. I only have myself to organise. It seemed like a big deal at the time, but looking back, I'm like, no, I only had myself to organise. That was really easy. I could just walk out the door. I could just pack a bag in 10 minutes and that would do me for a weekend. That was something that was sort of like a real gift of singlehood, to be able to do that kind of thing, to travel and not be like beholden to anyone else's schedule.
Did you realise at the time?
I think a little bit. I did a little bit, because I think my parents were really good at sort of like telling me to enjoy the moment and appreciate the things that I have now. That was like really good advice that I ended up getting from them and things. So, and like being able to go to mass during the week. I didn't know that was such a gift, but when you have small children around, suddenly the idea of like me going to mass, sort of like getting to mass for 9 a.m. and it's a 25-minute walk away and I have to get 2 kids there who are under 2, that's sort of like, it feels like there's a lot of obstacles there. It just feels like kind of insurmountable sometimes. I know I probably could do it.
Out the door situation.
It's not just like I have to organise myself and walk out. Like I had so many things that I could do in terms of sort of like faith life in singlehood that I really am glad I experienced, because they are nourishing now and they gave me good experiences. So now I have sort of like the solidness of that to like look back on and then try and bring into ordinary day-to-day life in some sense,
Because single life can be difficult as well when we're... But nice to highlight that it's not like this time of limbo. It's an essential part of our, just moving through
growth and development and knowing like who you are and what kind of things, especially like what kind of things are like your non-negotiables about the kind of life you want to have. For me, singlehood was sort of like a very non-negotiable. I needed my life to be Catholic, because there was sort of like a time at the beginning of uni when I was kind of figuring out whether I did want my life to be Catholic or not, because I'd moved.
Yeah, beginning of uni.
Yeah, so at the beginning of uni, I was figuring out if I wanted life to be Catholic or not. All through sort of like, growing up and stuff, we've been practicing Catholic, but I've never really made that faith choice for myself. And that was like the point where I realised, oh no, I can make a choice, So my older sister had made the choice not to continue being like practicing her Catholic faith, and that sort of like started for me this idea of sort of like talking about it, thinking about the questions, what comes up about why you wouldn't want to live the Catholic faith, what's really hard about it. I'd never come across that before my sister, so having that was sort of like the starting point to thinking on it. And then at uni, where I really got to decide whether to go to church first of all for myself, I don't know, like encouragement to make it my own. I think the whole sort of, do I practice my faith? I feel like I always kind of like knew it made sense. I've always liked things to like make sense, to like follow like a logical sort of conclusion and stuff. From hearing mum and dad, and they had loads of conversations with my uncle and with other people. They were the kind of people who would always like invite the Jehovah's Witnesses inside to have a conversation with them about the Bible. So my dad and my uncle are both converts to Catholicism. So dad went on and had 6 children, and my uncle became a priest. It was really fun seeing that as a kid, because I kind of grew up just with that being a question, sort of like of faith, and these conversations were just happening throughout my teenage years. So I think that was really formative for me to know that these conversations were allowed to happen, that they were good and that there were answers. Certainly sort of made me feel more able to ask questions and know, and I guess sort of like have confidence in the Catholic Church and like the magisterium and things like that. The sum total of my knowledge is really small. So like at some point I do some things I might not be able to understand, but that's not because it doesn't make sense. It's because I'm not smart. On some level, I'm not smart enough yet, or I don't know enough yet to understand this particular thing. But in faith and trust, then maybe I'll get to it later. But for now, just trust that the church knows what she's doing. None of my friends were Catholic at uni, none of them. They were all sort of like, either they were like, I think some of them were like nominally Catholic, in the sense that like their grandma was Italian, or their mum was Italian, or like they'd been baptised, or they went to church on Easter and Christmas and that kind of thing. That was like the sum total of their faith. But I was kind of used to being a bit weird, because I guess we grew up in Lincolnshire and we were like an American mother, 6 kids, in a tiny village. They knew who we were because we were like the weird Catholic American family that was really big, like, you know, as a village, like spaghetti was foreign food. So I feel like I was okay with being like, yeah, it was good practice for like uni, and just being sort of like, I'm a little bit weird, I'm Catholic, you know, and I'm gonna own it. I'll be like, yeah, I'm Catholic. So I went to mass and things. I didn't join the Catholic Society because it was a little bit wishy-washy at the time. In my first year, I looked at their like little website or Facebook page or whatever, and I was a bit like, I'm okay, I'll be Catholic by myself. But then the next year I saw they had like a website, they changed websites suddenly, and they had all this stuff about like common misconceptions about the Catholic faith, and they were like talking about the catechism, and they had like really good things coming up, and I was like, oh cool, I'll join that. And I looked at my timetable, and it fit to go to the weekly mass at the chaplaincy. We shared a chaplaincy, beautiful like golden like chapel, King's College.
And did it disappoint?
The Catholic chaplaincy in second year did not disappoint at all. I actually made some of my strongest friends there, because I was at mass, and there was a girl it was my second year, so it's her first year, and she kind of just like sidled up to me in the pew, and she was like, hi, do you want to go for coffee? I was like, yeah, sure, how nice for you to ask me to go out and like have a chat and get to know someone who's also Catholic. So she turned out to be my best friend at uni, and she was also a numerary in Opus Dei, so she ended up being like my super solid like Catholic friend, the one who like encourages you to become, I guess, like better formed as a Catholic, and to actually like do the rosary and go to benediction and go to adoration and really appreciate the fact that you're receiving Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. So through my friendship with her, she really sort of like helped me understand all of that.
What great friendship.
Really great friendship. Yeah, we still write letters. She's up in Manchester, I'm down here. We text and we write letters still sometimes. Haven't seen her in a while. But I think having a good friendship with someone who is solidly practicing, who maybe is more practicing than you are. Like I would have considered myself practicing and not in disagreement with any of the tenets of the Catholic faith when I was in first year at university. But I wasn't like super into the mass. I wasn't like praying the rosary at all. I knew the rosary was a thing, but I was like, it's a bit much. Like, that's like an extra thing that you do if you're Catholic. It's not, you know, the thing that you do. So I'm really grateful to her and sort of like the whole like Opus Dei links in London for that, really, because I lived in Opus Dei accommodation in my final year too, which was loads of fun because it was sort of like a whole house, had a library, they had study rooms, they had a hall, we all had dinner together. There was no Wi-Fi in your rooms, so you either slept in your rooms or chatted in your rooms with each other.
Wow, what a different uni experience.
So different to like normal stuff, but it was probably like the best thing for me because I was known to be very like scattered, not kind of very organised, always late to things.
It's because you're auntie.
I think, and I was 7 weeks early for being born, so I think I had a lot of time to make up, you know. So I think,
Twin.
yeah. So I was early then, so I can be late for everything else, and maybe when I'm, you know, it'll reach even at some point.
On my hand, Jemima.
Service to 3 bridges. Does it go underground? Can I do it again?
No.
We have to go down. So we're going on.
Subway level, lift going down.
Let's go, I think we'll go down. So we wanted to do Victoria line and we're going to Victoria.
Sorry, okay, you go. You go, you stay with your dad.
Are we underground?
Yeah.
Is that underground?
We get to that point in life, we wonder, what is our vocation? Is there someone special for me? Was that something that you found difficult? Certainly when I moved out of home, I suddenly sort of knew myself as being very much an individual and I've got to do something about it.
I knew there were like options, and I kind of struggled because in secondary school I never really fancied anyone. I never had that. Sometimes people in secondary school, they have massive crushes on people. I think my main crushes were like Aragorn.
From reading the book.
From reading the book, and to be honest, the film as well. He's very, very well done by Viggo Mortensen. And then I guess Mike Moses from The Prince of Egypt. You know, that's a solid animated character who's sort of like crush-worthy when you're like 12. I didn't actually get into the whole sort of like, oh, I fancy this person, oh, I fancy that person. That never was like part of my experience. So I didn't really understand it. I was a bit, I knew it kind of existed from books, but I didn't really understand it. Didn't really understand like how powerful a feeling it was to really like someone in that way as well. It was kind of a mystery to me, total mystery. So I avoided a lot of stuff in secondary school, just from not having that kind of emotion there, I guess. Didn't come for me until like later. So the whole question of vocation, I remember I talked to a priest about it in confession, and I was like confessing about how hard I found it to like love people and stuff. And then he was like, well, maybe you're called to be a nun. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm called to be a nun because I don't fancy boys. So don't fancy anyone. So maybe I should be a nun, you know, but I was 16. So, you know, like the processes of thought there aren't very well thought through. But I did really think about it. And I was like, maybe I'm supposed to be a nun. So I thought about it for a while, and I was like, you know what, I'll sit on that. I'll wait on that. It's going to be at the back of my mind. You know, every time a date doesn't work out, every time this, maybe I'm supposed to be a nun, maybe I'm supposed to be a nun. I made lots of friends with numeraries on Opus Dei. And I thought, oh, maybe I could be a numerary because they live single. They make a vow a promise every single year to continue being single. They live in the world. I really like the spirit of Opus Dei. I love when I come into an oratory. It feels like home being there. I was in Rome for Holy Week with the accommodation people from Opus Dei, from Ashwell House. And like they were all talking about like their stories of how they knew when they were supposed to be a numerary, like when they got their call to live life single for the Lord, as it were. And I just remember feeling this like utter sort of like, oh God, I don't want that to be, like literally, oh God, I don't want that to be me. Like I like this all sounds beautiful, and they all have, you know, these are wonderful stories for them, but I just don't want that to be my stories. I want to be married. I really want to be married and have kids. I'm not broody at all. I wasn't broody at all. I just had this moment like in Rome with all the sunshine and everything, just feeling really like depressed and being like, oh God, I just don't want that. That's just not something I want. And that was when I really realised that marriage was actually my vocation, because like shortly after that I was feeling all this sort of like, oh no, what if I just don't want it, but I'm supposed to do it. But then I felt this great like sense of peace when we were there, and I was like, you know what? I think the peace came from God, really. The peace of sort of like, no, actually, if you just listen and carry on doing what you're doing, this will be realised.
That still quiet voice of God, isn't it? That peace.
Yeah, that peace. Because the peace wasn't mine, because I was not feeling very peaceful about the whole decision thing. So it was definitely like just this peace that I was given about the vocation, and I was like, you know what, I'm certain, I'm sure. And that was sort of like 3 or 4 years before I even met Matthew. But
3 or 4 years of praying.
Of praying and like dating a lot, and always being sort of like, oh, I don't, like, why isn't like, you know, I'm Catholic, they're Catholic, I'm nice, they're nice. Why isn't it all working out? But it would always be really sad to be like, I'd sit down and you'd go on a date and you'd be like, oh, nope, don't know why, but nope, I can't marry this person. No idea why. Maybe they're not tall enough. That feels really shallow to say, but like I don't know if I could have ever married someone shorter than me. I don't know. Did you have anything like that? Did you have any, like...
Well, I met Lani's dad when I was quite young. So then after we broke up, my big decision was, I've got to be Catholic, and that's it.
Yeah.
Seriously Catholic, open to a big family, and like no questions on the Catholic faith, because I don't think I should try and convert someone else again in such a close proximity.
Yeah.
Like you though, I went through a time where I thought I just wasn't interested, and I thought,
Yeah.
I was quite happy being a single mum, and thought, you know, if that's, it is also difficult as well, like it's kind of this tussle with my emotions, like, oh, well, I would love to meet someone, but I'm just not interested in anyone, like, I'm not interested at all, and thought, am I just too, I don't know, I've got too much of high expectations.
Yeah, is my like internal list just too much? So I didn't think it was that much. I just really wanted them to like love God, or be open to loving God.
Did you date secular
I actually
men?
did date secular for a while, because I rationalised it. I was like, well, my dad wasn't Catholic when my mum married him, and they now have 6 children. He's like one of the strongest Catholics I know, so it must be okay sometimes.
So be open to it.
But also, like, secular people actually asked me out on a date, which I found really nice. I found it really hard sometimes I don't know, because it's quite a small pool of Catholics that are practicing who are young in the country, sure. So I found there was quite a lot of hesitation on the part of, like, young Catholic men to actually ask someone out on a date. I had quite a few dates that I didn't realise were dates until someone else told me that person had said that they'd been on a date with me. That was the randomest one. But and I was like, no, that never happened, and that's never going to happen again. I got tap water, so I don't think that can be called a date.
How were the secular dates? How did they stack up?
You could go on some really nice dates with a secular person. You just couldn't talk about it very much. So I think you could go on like nice dinner dates, you could go to like the Royal Albert Hall, you could go like peddler boating in Hyde Park. But I just remember being on a date with someone and we were trying to have a conversation about moral relativism. It was like our second or third date or something. You know, he was all sort of like, well, you know, I just don't think truth exists. You know, truth just doesn't really exist. And I was like, well, that's a moral absolute right there. You know, like logically, that what you've just said, you said it as if it's true. So either truth exists or it doesn't. You can't it's very circular to say, oh, I just don't think it exists, because you're trying to say something that's an absolute there. And his only response was, I don't think you can use logic that way. Okay, guess we're not going on another date. Guess this isn't going to work out, because he wasn't even willing to engage in the idea of like talking about whether or not moral relativism was possible or valid, or engage with me on the fact that I might have had a point. He just sort of like put it down, and I was like, okay, wow, that's a no. So
big topics come up soon, or like sooner than you think.
Yeah, they would come up sooner than you think. I mean, sometimes I avoided topics. So I avoided like the pro-life conversation quite often, because I know that's quite tricky. People, I was really pro-life. I even avoided it when I was working for a pro-life organisation sometimes. Just because I knew it'd be like, it's like a whole rat's nest sometimes when people have these really personal experiences. So I remember telling one guy that I worked for a pro-life organisation, and he suddenly told me the story of how with a previous girlfriend she moved to Australia and then found out she was pregnant, and he paid for the abortion. And I was just sort of like, oh, I'm really sorry that happened. And then he didn't really have anything else to say after that, other than sort of, you know, he thinks it was the right decision at the time because he wasn't ready to be a dad. And I was like, well, I didn't say it, but I was like, well, you already were. And that's really sad that that's something, and it was years ago, but he was like instantly ready to recall it and all the details and everything. So it clearly stayed with him. I was just sort of like, this is someone who's really young and they already have this experience in their life, and that's really sad. So after that person, I was particularly interested in Catholics who were pro-life.
So did that make your little window of possible spouses even smaller?
I think it did, you know? Yeah.
Did any secular guys stack up who do pretty well?
No. I mean, like some people I dated, they would have been great Catholics, you know, or they would have been like great dads. But I don't think it would have been like a great marriage, because it would have been, I would have always been wanting something different, you know, something more. And if someone's not ready to do that, then it's not a fair ask. And it's just sort of like, I don't think I would have coped very well with having someone who didn't believe the same things, who I couldn't be comfortable with expressing my beliefs and sort of like... 'cause I
At
feel-
this point,
yeah.
you've really formed in your faith. Well, you had it
Yeah.
into a big degree.
Yeah. So,
And other people can fall
yeah.
into these things and not necessarily think about it so much, and it's not necessarily so significant at the beginning, but then they sort of
Definitely.
relight the fire of their faith
like
when
everyone
they're
has
married.
their faith journey, and mine was just at that point, right? I was just like, no, I just really need someone who just loves Jesus like me. I really need that. I just really wanted to like hold out for that, to like hold the line. I found...
Despite your gorgeous dancing evenings.
Oh my god, just dance evenings were great. Jasper's crying. He's got a little cry. I'm gonna try and put a dummy in, see if he'll go back down.
Hey, shut door, hurry up.
I talk to my mum a lot about like relationships and waiting for the right person, because she had kind of a similar experience. She got married at like 31 and like saw all her friends getting married all throughout her 20s in the States and stuff, and she found that really hard. But she always gave me like great advice about sort of like just like holding on to it. Jesus writes, you know, God writes your deepest desires on your heart, and he like will fulfill them for you. You know, she knew like I like dancing, she used to like dancing as well. So she always used to tell me sort of like, you know, if you just dance with Jesus, he will let the right man cut in for you. I always like really held on to that, what she said, because it was really true. And it ended up being really true.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, really loved it. So
I think that's worthy of some tears and a glass of wine some evenings.
I'd love a wine. definitely, yeah.
In fact, you told me this in the pre-filming chat.
Yeah.
Tears came to my eyes when you told me. Tears came to my eyes when I repeated it to my mum, to Peter, and on the way here, I went to say it again and thought, I can't say it. It's just too beautiful.
Because it's really true, though. Because if you, like, yeah.
I found that before I met Peter as well, like in this sort of time of, there was there was the joy of being single as well, because I did love so much about it, but also there was this suffering, and actually in my most suffering time, I just felt the closest to Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's when I went to, in the hallway, even physically on the cross, a crucifix I'd had in the hallway, and I'd even just sort of hold my hand like this as if I was holding his hand, and just it was an incredibly special time in my life that I would not switch for anything.
Yeah.
And couldn't have got it in any other way other than through a deep personal suffering.
For me, it was like a deep sense of like, well, what if? Like, what if it doesn't happen? What if I'm just waiting forever? What if, like, he's already married, the person I'm supposed to marry? But it was just really sort of like, no, just focus on Jesus, because you're dancing with him right now, and he's who you've got right in front of you. When I was out dancing and stuff, that was really true. You had the most fun in the dances where you were fully present with the person you were dancing with. You were listening to what they wanted you to do for the dance. That was when you had the best dances that you were doing. And I was like, I could do that with my prayer life as well. So what if I did that with Jesus? What if I listened to him a bit more? Like, what if I did what he wanted me to do and like really listened for the lead, you know, to follow that lead? What if I really became that kind of follower in terms of like, you know, like that dance with the Lord, as it were?
A bit nearer, we're going to walk to.
Make sure children's on. Shut up! If you want to talk to me, but you never can.
How did that play out?
U2000. U2000 was like the great sort of vehicle for helping me like play that. I mean, Opus Dei and U2000, I think those two charisms really formed my Catholicism and how I live it out in my life. Because Opus Dei are really big on formation and they're really big on ordinary sacrifice, which I appreciate now as a mum a lot more than I did as a single person. So I went to 2000, maybe it was like the summer of my first year or the summer of my second year at uni. Mum found out about U2000 and she was like psyched about it. She was like, I found out this place. It sounds like, it's like just like my community days, because she was part of a community, like a charismatic community in the States. Yeah, so she kind of like shipped us all off to U2000 one summer. And like the first thing I thought was like, oh, because it was a lot of people. And some of like the music style was not my music style. At that point I was a bit more like Gregorian chant. So I was a bit overwhelmed, I guess, in terms of sort of like the sheer amount of volume. But as the weekend went on, the big Walsingham retreat weekend, I really sort of appreciated what was happening there, because there was such a presence of God in those fields, and like adoration was all the time. I'd never ever seen that before, where adoration was just Thursday night all the way through to Monday morning, and people were encouraged to sign up at, you know, during the middle of the night. And even if you didn't sign up, people would just go. They would be like, I'm just going to go at 3 a.m. Or it's time, like the groups, people would just sort of like, we're going to go to adoration for an hour, then we're going to do the Holy Mile, and then we're going to come back and go to adoration again. Or like that was the kind of thing that happened there. And it was just really, it was so weird that that kind of thing existed, but it was so wonderful to just have this like vibrant expression of faith in the middle of nowhere that was really hard to get to for a few days. It was just really, really amazing. So many young people, all over the United Kingdom even, was really taken by it, despite like my first impression being a bit like, just like it was too much. And so then we went the next year, and then I signed up to be a volunteered at the retreats, became part of the leadership team, worked in the U2000 office for a while.
So you really took on the Dance with Jesus?
Really took it on, yeah. Because I just sort of like saw that U2000 was just, they were doing something so amazing in those fields. I formed some really good friendships. Some people who live like around here in Richmond as well now because of U2000, and I met Matthew through U2000 as well. U2000 used to do a fundraising ball in London. I was working in the office at the time, and I was selling raffle tickets, which I took on because I was like, great, it's a structured way for me to go around and chat to people briefly.
Well done.
And just be like, I'm gonna sell the raffle tickets. So I went around table to table being like, hi everyone, being really cheerful. And then I came across Matthew, and I was like, he's so tall. And then we just talked for a little bit. And I thought he was like such a nice guy, but then I found out that I think he'd come with someone else, and I was like, darn it. He's not available. It was, yeah. I remember talking on the phone to my mum like the next day, and I think I said something sort of like, Mum, all the good ones are taken. Like, it's just such a shame, because I really liked this guy. I only met him for like 10 minutes. I didn't really meet him properly again for another year. But I would see him periodically at like Catholic events in London. And whenever I saw him, I wondered if he was single. I didn't really like go up and talk to him, because we were always sort of like across the room. But he would always like wave and say hi. So I just like really remember thinking like, if there is an opportunity for us to talk, I'm sure we'll go out on a date at least. And then the next summer that opportunity arrived. I was volunteering in the welcome tent of U2000, and Matthew volunteered as well.
Knowingly or unknowingly?
Unknowingly. He had come with his, like, he was part of this sort of like brotherhood group, and they went to different retreats, and they'd chosen U2000 to come and specifically to serve at. And I was volunteering, so I was just sort of like, right, I'm going to be volunteering in the welcome tent. That's my thing. And so he volunteered not knowing it was me, and then he kept on volunteering during those 5 days. And so we had a lot of conversations, which was just really nice to get to know someone like that over the course of a few days. And then he asked me out.
He asked you out.
It was really nice.
How?
Matthew, what timing? Why don't you just sit there for 10 seconds?
Lovely shirt.
Thank you very much.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And where can you find a fun shirt like that?
I think these were jewels. I remember at uni I was finding different versions of them. So yeah, I'm really bad at throwing things away. So.
But Emily's good at mending things.
Or throwing them away if they're unmendable.
You volunteered for the U2000 volunteering. You were part of a brotherhood.
Yes, and we went to a retreat up in up north somewhere. Where was it?
Just because it's the north, you don't have to forget about it.
Lake District.
The
Castlereagh?
Castlereagh, yeah, Castlereagh Manor, yeah. There are also many other great retreat centres that you can go to. But in the north, yeah, they're definitely. We then got involved with Youth 2000. The emphasis for us were just sort of to help out with sort of the building of things and the sort of the moving of things around. We met properly then, didn't we?
And were you looking to meet someone? Were you thinking?
No, I didn't go there to. I mean, I would always be open to the idea of it, you know, if it happened. But the purpose was actually to serve, which was really lovely, actually.
And then you got to know Emily just really organically.
Yeah, I was signed up for the
everything.
registration because often when I go to things, actually the biggest impact I find is when you're welcomed initially, sort of sets you up, especially for the festival. I remember the first time I went, I didn't really know anything that was happening. It's all a bit bizarre and chaotic. But it was the welcoming that sort of really made me feel settled. So that's the honest answer. It also happened that Emily, as it transpires, was on reception as well, which is where we met. I may have done more time in reception because Emily was there, but that's a few times where she was alone needing help. I was like, absolutely, I'll go and help her.
Wow, I love that.
So it's good, not completely unselfish.
And so then you actually asked her out. That's something kind
Right
of
at
tricky
the
in
end.
those
Yeah, right at the end.
circles. Yeah, because I think as well, like, there's like an element of not wanting to upset balances and things. 'Cause everyone's meeting up and doing things together.
Yeah, it's true. And I've never been particularly concerned about being awkward because I am, so I'm just used to it. I wasn't really interested during the retreat because we were both having such a great time with the retreat. You know, I knew that I, obviously fancied her, but it wasn't until afterwards that I then sort of paid more attention then to that. It's good.
That was a real blessing actually, having that service orientation.
It's
And
great. A little bit of service, and then he always gives you rewards.
Had you shared your
England.
thoughts with anybody at this, or was this kind of you interiorly, you'd made up your mind, I'm here for service, I'll chat later?
There's one guy sharing intent with, and we were just general chit-chatting, and I mentioned, I didn't really know anyone on the retreat that well. I didn't really talk to people a lot, sort of on that sort of familiar term, so I wasn't really in the position to, but there was one guy sort of mentioned that, she was really nice, but that was it. It wasn't talking
you didn't
about
need
things.
a little shove.
No.
Good.
I think it helps when being aware of what your calling or vocation is, whether it's married life, priesthood, or any other callings. And with dating, really for both of us, as it transpires, it's very much sort of intentional dating is important. So sort of, actually asking someone out on a date because you want to date them, rather than just going out for a drink and leaving it ambiguous.
Because then eventually you're thinking of marrying. Like that's
that's the point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I personally don't. Once I feel that if a dating or whatever is not going towards marriage or it's not the right person, then it's not really worth pursuing. Cause it's
not prudent just to continue.
Exactly. Yeah.
That Walsingham meeting, I think Emily said it was at the Crossroads.
Yes.
That.
Yeah. Where the field is, and there's the chapel, the Slipper Chapel.
Slipper Chapel's just in there.
Yeah.
And then timescale of dating to engagement.
It's 7 months. But I knew before. Yeah. I was discussing about 5 months, maybe 4 months. I sort of, had mentioned it to my family. Maybe it was even after, I can't remember, I think it was after Christmas actually. Maybe January time, yes, about approximately 4 months. It was quite clear. So Emily will probably agree, sort of once I have a thought or once I know I want to do something, then I just really want to do it. Which has caused some challenges in the marriage sometimes. It's like, what are you doing now? Sorry. But sort of, so it was from that point, sort of, so I kind of knew sort of earlier in that year, and then we went for the Easter, we went to Rome. We had Holy Week there.
And were you with a group there?
No, we stayed within it was a monastery, and then sort of, so most of the days we would meet up and go wherever. It was Palm Sunday, yes. The intention was to do it Easter Sunday, but I couldn't wait. It's quite a stressful time, sort of when you have the ring in your pocket. I took it on the plane, I was so worried about losing it or getting caught in security. And then even when we were walking there, I had it in my pocket. He would sort of get close to me and I'd be like, get off, don't touch me. So yeah, Palm Sunday was the day.
Had you asked her daddy?
Yes, absolutely. I drove to the school and found him and asked him after he finished. Yes, we had a really nice conversation about it, yeah. It was really lovely, yeah.
Was it longer there or longer to Rome?
It was longer on the walk to St. Peter's Square. That was the longest walk. We were doing a rosary. I couldn't remember the rosary. Our Father, I couldn't recite it. I couldn't believe he forgot it. Just kept getting mud on.
Thanks so much for sharing with us today.
That's awesome, yeah, thank you.
Who wants more?
When did you go up to the first moment? You said, look, me and you will go on a date.
We did that at Crossroads.
So this was right at the end of the festival. They do sort of like a big party, and it was that when she was going to go to the tent, but she was going to the bathroom first. So I chased her, but then I realised it'd be weird if she was going to go into the bathroom and me ask her. So I thought I'd wait till she comes out. So it was sort of, I think it was probably at 1 a.m. or something, wasn't it, after the party, which was probably the Monday then, 1 a.m. on the Monday.
There's usually security on the Crossroads.
They're a bit suspicious when I was hiding in the bush. So she turned around once and I got afraid and I ran into the bush. So that's when they were a bit suspicious.
I remember it because I was like walking out from the bathroom back to the tent with my like hot water bottle, and I just saw like Matthew like ambling towards me, very relaxed, and I was like, oh, here we go. And he was like, hi. I was like, hi. And he was just sort of like, so, really enjoyed getting to know you over the last 5 days. And I was like, yes, I've had some great conversations. I'd really like to talk more, so I'd really like to take you out to dinner on a date sometime. I thought it'd be great. And then Matthew, I think, what did you say after that?
Well, I think I was surprised that you... I don't think it was as smooth as that.
I remember it being fairly smooth.
Okay.
You were fairly smooth. It was just afterwards, you muttered something. What was it that you muttered?
Was it I was going to be sick?
Yeah.
Because I feel sick now thinking about it. Yeah, I felt sick. And I think I mentioned about my heart rate going really fast.
Yeah.
Nerves, yeah, absolutely. I still feel it now every time we talk about it. It's okay, Matthew, she said yes.
Yes, you asked me out. Perfect. Because we had a few days of like talking and stuff, and then like at the party and stuff, he hadn't asked me to dance, and I was like gutted. So then I knew that it was probably like the last time I'd probably see him properly before like the breakdown and leaving the next day and stuff. So I saw him coming and I was like, oh, he's going to ask me out. And then he did. And I was sort of like, I said yes. I don't know if I did give him my phone number at that point.
I asked for it.
You asked for yeah, because you said I'd like to go to dinner with you and can I have your phone number? And I said yes, and yes, and yes.
I'm very happy with it.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Emily, thank you so much. What a gorgeous day and family, and lovely to have a window into your Catholic life. Thank you so much for sharing. It's families like you and your generosity in hosting us for the day. It's not always easy behind the scenes. Crying babies, lots of lovely things going on. So thank you. I know it's a real generosity, and thank you to all of our families who have shared with us and hosted with us, and all of you who are supporting us. Thank you so much. If you are enjoying the channel, please support what we're doing. God bless you. Thank you.